This episode is brought to you by Sudio. For great sounding headphones, check out sudio.com and use the promo code WHAT for 15% off at checkout. We've talked a lot on the show about how paranormal events kind of happen in combination with each other. It's that you do have your occasions where there will be, a random UFO sighting or a haunted house, but we also hear several cases where there will be poltergeist-like activity in areas where there's a high level of UFOs or UFO sightings or contact combined with poltergeist activity and alleged alien contact or channeling of some sort. And there's also the, cases like the Skinwalker Ranch or like the Cannock Chase in England. I guess you could include all those wacky, spooky triangles that are all over the place.
Yeah, even the whole Point Pleasant stuff was just a mixture of everything. I mean, I hate my mom just showed me some TV show that covered Mothman. She wanted me to watch. It was a great show, but I mean, again, they just mentioned UFOs, and in the reality of that case, I mean, Mothman took a back seat to all the UFO sightings that were going on. Just a bigger mixture than what people usually reference.
Yeah, it is pretty crazy when you really get down to it, because the Mothman is the most famous thing, and I think it's because it's a some weird sort of creature that was seen by all these people. But then when what kind of gets forgotten about is the UFOs and the Men in Black incidents. And to me, the Men in Black things were the most unsettling events that happened in Point Pleasant.
Yeah, it's very well documented, all the intermingling with the Men in Black, or, whatever you wanted to call them. And that's what they looked like. But it's also one of the most inhuman descriptions of the Men in Black that you'll come across.
Yeah, and my favorite is the Man in Black who took the pen and walked away laughing like he had gotten one up on the other person.
Yeah,
the best.
I remember reading one where there was one at a diner and he just refused to eat his food or talk to anybody, just stared at his fork.
It's the most amazing instrument I've ever seen in my life. What do you call this magnificent thing?
We travel through time and space, but we still eat with our hands.
We're goddamn barbarians, and you guys have this magnificent tool. I don't even need to sully my flesh.
Wouldn't that be funny if that's what it was thinking? It's all, my kingdom for this fork.
Yeah, who do I need to speak with to gain access to your fork technology?
I can just take this. I can just stick this right in my fucking pocket.
They're so inhuman, it doesn't even occur to them that they can just walk off with a fork. Just stick it in your pocket, dude. You don't have to worry about it. Just walk right out. No one's going to say a goddamn word at a Greasy Spoon diner. Just fucking walk out and take it.
Yeah, I take a soup spoon from Red Robin's every time I go. So you're okay, Man in Black.
Is there a purpose behind you stealing from Red Robin?
Dude, can you find a good soup spoon in a store anywhere? They're fucking awesome. I take them because they're awesome.
I would imagine probably anywhere where you buy silverware, you'd be able to get a soup spoon.
Well, I just want one, so I'm not paying for 12.
But you said you steal one every time you go, so clearly you want more than one.
Yeah, that's true. I only have like 2 of them remaining.
Oh, did karma come and bite you in the ass and take them from you as well?
I'm sure. Yeah, I'm sure I've loaned them out to people or like brought food for
loaned
somebody.
Them out. You've got your own soup spoon loan service.
I need you to write your name right here and the date when you're taking this soup spoon, fucko.
You got a fucking tag on the back that you stamp. You have to get a fucking laminated card in order to borrow your fucking soup spoons.
You need to fill this out.
I stole that shit fair and square, and I expect it back. Don't be going stealing shit behind my back, motherfucker. Anyway, we're not here to talk about your thieving experience. There's this place in the U.S. called Connecticut. It's a state. It's one of the states.
You may have heard of it.
You may have heard of it. There's things that happen there, like rich people live there. Like Vince McMahon is from Connecticut, Greenwich, Connecticut to be exact.
Oh wow.
Yeah, that's where all the fancy pinky extenders live. But we've talked about Connecticut, and Connecticut's a really small state. We talked about the Glatzel family demonic possession incident that led this dude to murder somebody. And then there's the famous movie, The Haunting in Connecticut, which is about a
haunting
that takes place in Connecticut. But there's also a kid who starts becoming possessed by a spirit as well. I don't know if that's in the movie, but that's what happened in the actual event, allegedly. But there's this, in 1978, there was this strange string of sightings that happened. Well, it went beyond just sightings, but this town, it's called Eichler's Cove, and it's a small city near Monroe, Connecticut. And until 1978, this area was never known for having paranormal events happen. But beginning in August, I think August 11th actually was the first event to take place. But August 11th, 1978, rocks began to fall from the sky on homes in the area.
Much like the Amherst attack and the Mackey haunting.
Yeah, it's interesting that the phantom stones falling is included as a regular, I shouldn't say regular, but kind of an event that happens along with these paranormal events.
Yeah, these hardcore haunting cases. And again, let's remember while we go through this story that this isn't 1620 something. This isn't on some family's farm. This is in 1978.
Yeah, like I said, the first weird thing to happen in this area. But the rocks would range in size from small pebbles to boulders as big as 14 pounds.
Holy shit.
That's rained from the sky.
Yeah, that'll kill you for sure.
Yeah, if he lands on you, I mean, just imagine the damage it would do to a car. A 14-pound boulder dropping from the sky.
Now, when you hear about rocks falling in the sky, obviously people can throw rocks. But when you hear about people throwing 14-pound rocks, does that kind of eliminate people doing that? Because that's like that could be attempted murder.
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, I don't know too many dudes that are shot putting 14-pound boulders, but, maybe that's just the crew I roll with. I don't know.
So do we know how many houses experienced this rain of rocks at first?
It seemed to be centered on an area roughly, or 150-foot radius was the area where these rocks were falling in. And the residents in the area started to contact the police department regarding the rocks because they were like, why the fuck are rocks being thrown at our house? So the police came and they were investigating, but they were pretty much baffled by the whole thing. And to kind of explain it away, they said that it was probably a bunch of kids that were using a homemade catapult to fling rocks from a hill. There was this nearby hill, but the hill itself was a quarter mile away from this area where these rocks were falling. So, there was a problem there with that explanation because
they're not artillery infantry. That's
yeah. And you'd have to be pretty accurate to always hit the same area with your rocks, with a catapult, especially if you're using different types of rocks, different sizes of rocks, and they're all landing in the same area. But on August 17th, again, the rocks began to rain down, and this time it only fell down on 3 houses and a gazebo at 8 p.m. sharp. And all of these buildings were within that 150-foot radius. And there happened to be a police officer present at the time. And the officer claimed that he saw rocks just appear out of thin air and fall from the sky.
Now, having somebody witness these rocks that are clearly being witnessed by other people falling from the sky. The Mackey hunting was the only other place where people got to watch these appear from nothing. That's just bizarre. I mean, the officer there even grabbed one of the rocks and said it felt warm. What the fuck does that mean?
Yeah, and this wasn't the first time that the police witnessed it. But during this incident, another group of officers actually went to the nearby hill to search the hill and the surrounding area to search for evidence of kids throwing rocks or a homemade catapult, and they found nothing. There were no kids on the hill. They found no evidence of a catapult, and they had no explanation. And the local newspaper actually interviewed the chief of police, and he was quoted as saying, "I have been a police officer for 40 years, and in that time, I never had to deal with ghosts, and I do not plan to now."
He didn't give a shit what was causing it.
No. He's like, nope, not ghosts. Not gonna do it. Not gonna do it.
Have you ever had to deal with like a ghost or anything weird like that in a workplace? I wonder if there's laws for that, because I've had a lot of like insanely scary shit happen in workplaces, and there's been times where I was like, I'm not going back in there today.
I've never had any weird experiences at work at all.
I had some scary ones, dude. I used to work at a place that was called Smart and Final. Have you ever been there? It's like a smaller Costco.
I've never even heard of it.
It's like a smaller Costco. Everything's in huge bulk, but it's got like, it's like a warehouse, so it's just concrete floor. But I was in there with one other dude when we were closed, and I was facing all the product, making sure it looked all good for the next day. And I heard somebody walking in the aisle next to me. And it was so loud and vivid, I was sure somebody was there. I turned the corner saying, "Hey, sir, we're closed." And nobody was there. And as soon as I got there, it was back at the aisle that I was in. So I ran back over to that aisle. And as soon as I got over there, there was nobody there. But just like after the third thing fell off the shelves, I just ran to the front of the store. And I'm like, I'm going home. Fire me.
No, I've never had anything like that happen. That would be cool if it happened, but no, never happened.
There's got to be like some workman's comp for ghost experiences or something.
Have you been bothered by ghosts in the workplace?
Have you been traumatized by specters?
Oh, man. There needs to be more paranormal salesman people.
Yeah. If anybody can do a better transatlantic ghost commercial for workman's comp due to paranormal experiences, please
send it in.
Record it,
and we will display it on our show, and it'll be chuckled at by
7 people,
maybe 8 if it's a good week.
So they're not finding any kids or homemade.
Yeah, no, there's no kids. There's no super strong guys heaving rocks. No hill giants.
And the police chief is not wanting to deal with it if it is some type of paranormal.
He's saying there's no ghosts and I'm not going to deal with it, and no. But there was another occasion where a police officer was attacked or hit by the rocks, I should say. And it was a detective, Harry Noroian. And Detective Harry Noroian. And he was Detective Harry was hit on the head by one of the falling rocks. And there were witnesses on the scene who said that after the rock struck him on the head, it levitated off the ground and skipped away like a rock over water. And it finally came to rest 10 feet away.
Yeah, I read that in your notes. What the hell could that be? It's as if flying rocks and appearing rocks, mind you, weren't weird enough. After they hit people, they fly away now.
It's like they've got a mind of their own. It's like, yay, I hit you, no see you.
It made an escape.
Yeah, it tried, and then it realized it was a rock, and it's like, I'm just gonna lay here. Like I said, this went on for almost a month, and there was another occasion on the 21st of August where residents said that they actually saw rocks flying into the air from behind a stand of trees, and then it came crashing down on the homes and in the street within that 150-foot area.
Oh, wow. So they're coming from like a source place, flying up into the air, and then traveling.
on this incident, it did. I don't know if this is the only time that witnesses claimed to have experienced this. Every other time they said it just appeared from the sky. But here they saw him lift up behind the trees and just crash down. And people were outside, so they had to run for cover because all of a sudden they're hanging out outside and all these rocks just start crashing down. And some of the rocks were so large that the police determined that finally they determined that even a strong man would not have been able to throw the rock from the distance of the hill or from where the trees were. And the catapult theory was also ruled out because it wouldn't have been possible to have all these rocks land in the same area.
Okay, so we can safely rule out at this point, even after police investigation, that this is not mischievery. This is not people throwing these rocks. And again, we're stuck with a situation to where rocks are fucking flying out of the sky. That's odd.
Yeah, and they had no explanation. And they're finally admitting we have no idea what's happening.
And it's strange because it's not happening inside of a single house like the cases we've heard of before. This is happening to an entire city, or at least 150-foot area.
Yeah, it's more a neighborhood than the whole city.
Yeah, just bizarre, man. Just insane. I mean, it's cases like these, like the Mackey haunting and the Amherst attack. I think that was like one of our first shows. If you is brave enough to go listen to that, but. It's what else do we want here? I mean, this has even taken place in modern times. Tons of credible witnesses. What else do people want for a ghost story? Why is stories like this ignored?
And that's a good question, because this report, the entire story that I'm going to be relating, it's not really showing up in many other places. I actually came across it when I was reading this book called Interdimensional Universe by Philip and Brogno. And he was one of the investigators who ended up coming in on this case. But the book itself isn't centered around these events. This was just one of the things he talked to. I think he devoted like 30 pages or so in this 300 or 200 something page book about this case and the area and the events surrounding this case. But I tried to look elsewhere for it, and it's not really heavily reported on. So it seems weird because of all the officers that were involved. But you know how that sort of thing goes when you've got officers. A lot of times that they'll be afraid to speak up because they'll be afraid that it might impact their job.
Or even told not to speak up.
Yeah, or told, we don't know what happened, but we don't want you saying it was fucking ghosts.
Which is understandable, I guess. But I mean, just with so many witnesses and like you said, with the police, the officials, it's not like they can deny that it's happening.
They never denied that the events were happening. But I don't think it's something that they wanted to speculate on because they had no idea what was happening. And they, what kind of asshole would you be like, it's got to be ghosts. And then you find out like a few months later that it was asshole kids after all. So I can understand that the hesitation with wanting to speculate on the matter and the statement the chief made about not dealing with ghosts, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
But shortly after the events died down, the Psychical Research Organization sent an investigator along with Philip and Brogno, who's an author and also investigates UFOs and paranormal activity. And they checked around, did some interviews with the police, and did some investigation of their own. And since the catapult theory had been ruled out and there were all these strange facts about the case, the idea came up that the events may have been due to psychic kinesis. And as we know with all these poltergeist stories, they tend to center around a child either going through a change in their life or some sort of emotional trauma. So they assumed that this may have been a child who was producing psychokinesis, very likely without their own knowledge, and most likely while they were sleeping.
Now, when you read this right away, does this seem like too bit of a far of a fetch? I mean, that's a kind of a wild conclusion to come to.
See, I don't really think that it's too far-fetched, because these guys, one was from the Psychical Research Center, so that's kind of their area of expertise. And Philip Imbrogno is experienced paranormal investigator. He's been trying to use science to prove the paranormal, or get a better understanding of what the paranormal is. So I think that this is something that he most likely experienced before and was able to speculate on it because of that.
So an educated guess or theory.
Yeah, I would say so.
How creepy would that be? That's like a Stephen King novel. It's just some kid who's pissed off all day, but when he goes to sleep, his anger comes out through telekinesis.
Through raining rocks on people.
Hitting cops and shit.
Yeah. Fuck you, copper. You never take me alive. You never prove it was me. I'm a 12-year-old boy. But these investigators started interviewing residents in the area, and the interviews tend to center around finding out if any individuals in the area had a history of paranormal experiences or had experienced psychic phenomenon at some point in their life. And none of the people that were interviewed had ever experienced anything else strange beyond these weird raining rocks. And so they continued interviewing everyone in the area. And as they got closer to the center of where this stuff was happening, they were speaking with the parents of this child, just asking them questions about what was going on. And their son, who's a 12-year-old boy, overheard the conversation and spoke up. And he claimed that he never actually saw the falling rocks, but he did dream about them. And he said on nights when the rocks would fall, while the rocks were falling, he'd be dreaming about the rocks falling, and he'd wake up to find out that it had really happened and it wasn't just a dream.
Well, that's going to be trippy for that little kid.
Yeah. And so the investigators, talked to his parents more about his history, and he apparently had a history of emotional issues and was regularly seeing a psychiatrist about these issues. And his doctor had given him a medication that would help him relieve anxiety and help him sleep. And once he started taking this medicine, that's when he would fall asleep under this medication. It would typically correspond with the time that the rocks fell. There was no issues of the rocks falling before he was on the medication. So that was the first interview, and they said they would be back the next day to talk to them, to discuss things with his parents further the next day. So they show up the following evening around 8:30 at night, and when they got there, the boy was asleep. And as they were talking to the boy's parents, an officer pulled up outside he was approaching the house to speak with the investigators. And as he was approaching, 2 big rocks fell from the sky. And one of the rocks weighed about 2 pounds. And it jumped off the ground and it hit the officer in the arm. And upon touching the rock after it hit him, the rock was warm.
See, that's weird. That's a weird detail. I wonder why that rock would be warm.
Yeah, maybe it was just the energy used to move the rock.
Very true. Very good point.
Just warmed it up. It just jumped off the ground, but there had to be some energy behind it.
Now, was the kid asleep when these 2 rocks fell?
Yeah. Yep, he was asleep at this time. So that was just further proof for the investigators. But eventually, this boy ended up being admitted to a mental hospital. And once he was admitted, the rocks stopped falling. But one of the reasons that he was admitted was because he began to report seeing aliens around town. And he claimed to have conversation with a being named Iblsas. It's spelled Iblsas.
And these were dreams he was having?
No, he said that this being was communicating with him, like through his head. And what he told the boy was that he was a being from another dimension that was close to ours, and that he came through to contact the boy and get the boy to help him rescue his people so that they could enter into our world. Now, the name Ibilsas sounds pretty ridiculous, but it's very close to Iblis, Iblis, from Islamic mythology. And he's basically the devil, for lack of a better term. But he's a jinn. And the mythology behind the jinn is that God created 3 levels of beings. He created the angels, he created the jinn, and he created humans. Now, humans are made from earth, like the story of Genesis, where Adam was made from dust or clay, however you want to look at it. And the angels were made from air, and the jinn were made from fire. They were made from smokeless fire. But after the humans were created, God gave the earth to humans, and that kind of made the jinn feel salty. And the jinn thought it was bullshit that they were being relegated to this other dimension where they no longer could, because they existed before humans were created. So after humans were created, the jinn were kicked off the earth and relegated to this dimension where they weren't able to experience any physical pleasures, because it's a non-physical dimension. But in Islamic mythology, the idea with the jinn is that they want to get back into our dimension by any means necessary. So they'll try to trick humanity, anyone who comes across a jinn, they'll try to trick them into helping them become part of our world, whether it be through promise of wishes, the classic genie mythology.
Yeah, the genie's a jinn, right?
Yeah, that's where it's all based from. But did you ever see the Wishmaster movie?
Yeah.
Do you remember the scene in that where, I think it might even be the opening scene in that, where he's talking to the Sultan and he wants the Sultan to use his final wish, because after he uses his 3 wishes, the door opens up and the other jinn can come through. So like the Sultan's on the cusp of making his 3rd wish and they're about to come through. And that's like his whole thing. The Wishmaster is coming through trying to tempt humanity. He's probably Iblis, but I don't think he ever gets named. I could be wrong. I don't know. It's been a while since I've seen that movie, but his whole thing is that he wants to get someone to make their 3 wishes so that he can unleash the rest of the jinn back onto Earth and they can take over. And this all goes back to the whole aliens are just the modern version of an old myth. Whether it's fairies or jinn or the various tricksters that exist in mythology, these types of things seem to keep showing up and fucking with people for some reason.
I wonder if that's what was going on. I mean, to go from this kid possibly, almost kind of proving that he was causing these rock storms. I don't know. Why would he go from that to fucking talking to aliens and shit? That's crazy. After seeking medical help and taking stuff that's supposed to alleviate anxiety and shit like that. A lot of that stuff is just antipsychotic. So, it should even helped on that level. Right.
Yeah. And when you're displaying telekinesis like that, is it really too far-fetched to say that maybe he's able to contact beings that that normal people aren't able to see or hear? maybe because of his ability, his mind is more open to the communication. So that's why they come to him.
Yeah, I wonder if he was actually put into like a mental hospital or some type of research facility.
Yeah. I don't know, because he was underage, they didn't list his name. So there wasn't any follow-up on that. So I really don't know.
So what did this dude in the book, what else did he say in conclusion to this story? I mean,
well, they were just in town to investigate that, and the boy hadn't been admitted at that point when he left, and he had only found out later that the boy was admitted because he was talking to aliens in Ibelsass.
Ibelsass.
Ibelsass, Ibelsass, not as cool as Iblis.
I just picture like a Saturday morning cartoon. Hey kids,
it's Ibelsass. I'm your friend. Help me get my friends back into your universe. Make 3 wishes,
and the end of the world will come.
We're going to change your voice there, all scary. It's going to sound awesome.
Please do. Please do make me sound awesome. So, before I go on and talk about the other wacky shit that's going on, I want to take a second to say that you sound really fantastic tonight, Mateo. You sound extra silky in my ear holes.
Oh, that's great. I love being silky in holes.
Yeah. Oh. But I think maybe it could be because of our new sponsor, Studio. They were really awesome, and they sent us some free headphones, and I got the Regent set. But they're actually offering all of our listeners 15% discount off any purchase with the discount code WHAT at checkout. So if you go to studio.com, that's SUDIO.com, you can check out their selection of headphones and pick out something that looks nice, and then you can put them on your ears and you'll be like, oh shit, these don't just look nice, these sound nice, because they do. They've got a variety of different earbuds and headphones available on their site, and they're a newer company that's trying to revolutionize the way people see headphones, and they want to make headphones that not only look nice but actually sound nice, because a lot of those headphones that look nice, they just sound like someone's taking a dump in your ears.
Oh yeah, I've spent hundreds of dollars on those.
Yeah, like they've got a cool little logo on the outside, so like, oh, those look awesome. Then you put them on, and then it's all static within like a week, and nobody wants that.
Not also are headphones important to us as people who record all the time, but one of the cool things about them reaching out to us was it's also a product that's cool for you guys as somebody who listens to podcasts as well as makes a podcast. I mean, I constantly have headphones on, and I can't tell you guys how much money I've spent on crappy Bluetooth headphones and ones that barely work. And these ones are, they're top of the line stuff. They're great looking and sound awesome as well. And again, use the code WHAT and save some money on them.
And we'll put a link to their website in the show notes as well, so you can go to our website and check that out, and save yourself some money, get some really nice headphones. But the other thing I want to mention before we go on is lately we've been, not only with these headphones but with our recording as well, we've been trying to upgrade all of our equipment. And the coolest thing about upgrading all our equipment has been not only that we can put out better quality shows for the listeners, but the fact that it has actually been funded by the listeners. Anytime you guys buy shirts or stickers or make a donation, that doesn't go to our pockets, that it's actually going to help improve the show. And so far we've got new equipment. We both got new mics, and Mateo has a new mixing board. I'll be getting a new mixing board shortly, and it's all because of help from the listeners. Some of you guys have been really awesome and just sent us donations just for kicks. Some of you guys buy t-shirts, which is basically just giving us a donation and we're able to give you something back. And, we really appreciate that stuff. So Mateo's also been selling original show art, and he's been working on these really awesome tarot card drawings. So if you guys don't follow us on Instagram, go to Instagram and check it out. He posts whenever he's got a new one available, and he's been selling them, and that has also been going towards improving the show. So if you have any interest in any original show art or tarot card drawings, just check out our Instagram. If you have any requests for what you want to see next in the tarot card series, just let Mateo know. What have you done so far?
I've done the Tower and I did the Fool. There's a couple that I started that I didn't like the way they went. I'm doing all with pen and ink, so it's all, if I fuck up, it's trash. Sometimes
they look awesome.
Oh, thanks.
The ones that you've posted so far. And honestly, after you get done with all the what's that, the major arcana, and we start doing, eventually, if you end up doing them all, I would like to get prints made and actually release a tarot card deck.
That would be awesome.
Yeah, the Whatcast tarot card deck. That'd be fucking badass. So that's a long ways away. He's only done the art for 3 cards so far, so it's a long ways away still, but someday it'll happen, and by God, it'll be fucking cool. So check that out.
And all your guys' donations make stuff like that possible. Just like getting the shirts, getting stickers and stuff. That's all the money that you guys are kind enough to send us just goes right back into the show. We're not trying to get rich off this. We're not going to get rich off this.
I'm trying to get rich off it, but Mateo's like, no, we got to improve the show. And I'm like, dude, just give me that money, man. Just hook it. But, it's not fair or equitable. And he doesn't live close enough for me to point a gun at him. So he wins. But getting back to the story at hand here, this shit didn't end with Ibble Sass and raining rocks. As I mentioned when this started, his rock raining lasted until August 31st. Now, the next day, on September 1st, 1979, UFOs began appearing. The first one happened at 8:30 at night, and it was a man who was coming home from work, and once he started crossing a bridge, his car just stopped running. So he exited his car, and he was going to look under the hood to see if there was anything detectable that he could see that was wrong with it. And as he was getting out to go to the front of his car, he noticed a glowing object in the sky. And he said it was blinking yellow, red, and green. And at first he thought it was Venus because he knew Venus was really bright in the sky. And he didn't think much of it. But as he continued watching it, the object began to get closer and lower in the sky. And once it got close enough, he noticed that it was a disc-shaped object. And as it got closer, it got so bright that he couldn't even look at it. So he, understandably freaked out and went back to his car. And once he got to his car, he noticed that light from the craft was reflecting on his car and on the cross beams of the bridge. So the light was so intense in the sky that he could see it coming down on the metal around him, basically. But as he watched, the object fired flares out that flew into multiple directions, and then 2 red balls came out from underneath of the disc-shaped object, and it began circling the bridge, going over the top of the bridge and then underneath the bridge and continuing around that way. Then they approached his car, and they began to circle around the car. And he said as he watched, he was able to determine they were about the size of a baseball, and they had a steady dark red color to them. He said that they were almost crimson. And after a short time of circling his car, the balls flew back into the sky, re-entered the craft, and then the craft disappeared. He said after the craft disappeared and the light was gone, the bridge itself was left with this faint glow. and he said it looked almost like it had been like charged up or something, and it was emanating this faint glow.
It's not too often you hear about like probe drones getting shot at UFOs. I mean, it happens, but it's usually something observed much further away.
Yeah, a lot of times you just see them, like they'll fall from the sky and just kind of float away on their own or something.
Yeah, we don't get to see them in action, scanning a bridge or something, whatever it was doing.
Yeah, it's weird. But that was just the first sighting. It came again on September 3rd. And this time, 4 individuals from 3 different nearby cities. 4 individuals from Newtown, Sandy Hook, and Danbury all reported seeing a UFO this night on September 3rd. And all witness reports were identical, even though that they were individual reports. And they all reported seeing a bright yellow egg-shaped object in the sky. And they said it would hover and just kind of chill. But then it would go and start making, in a fast pattern, making a sideways figure 8, so like the infinity symbol. And it would move so fast that it would make the symbol would basically be illuminated in the sky.
Like a solid shape, you know?
And they said whenever the object would stop, it would emit sparks that appeared to fall on the ground in the distance. And then not only that, but this exact object, the egg-shaped infinity object, made a return on the 15th of September and again on the 21st. And during all of these sightings, there were confirmed power outages in Sandy Hook and Newtown.
Now, had the rock raining stopped at this point?
Yeah, the rock raining stopped August 31st.
Okay.
So the first sighting happened the night after the rock stopped. And then 2 nights later, there was this other UFO sighting. And then it came back on the 15th and the 21st. And so it caused the power outages, but the power company actually investigated the power outages, and they had no explanation for what caused them. There were no transformers down, no lines down, there were no storms. So they had no idea. It's weird, man. I don't know what to make of it, but these UFOs were seen during the month of September. And the rocks had stopped, but keep in mind, this kid got put in a mental institution because he said he started seeing aliens and that one of them started communicating with him.
Yeah, I love these cases to where there's such classic and severe paranormal activity, and then the UFOs show up. I love these types of stories. And again, it's weird that we hadn't heard about this one, but how odd. I mean, the day after this kid goes in.
Yeah, well, yeah, the day after the day after they stopped on the 31st, the UFOs started up.
I wonder if this was some type of maybe dimensional or intergalactic entity that was trying to prime this kid to allow them to, I don't know if invade's the right word, but come through or show up. And damn, it almost sounds like they were succeeding. I mean, it's so weird to like, I dream of falling rocks. Now there's aliens. I mean, shit, I wonder what would happen if they didn't lock them up.
Yeah, right? If and who knows if maybe it's just the area and the kid had psychic abilities, and because he had some sort of psychic ability that he wasn't aware of, and this area is a doorway or a window, and maybe they were just using this kid. And I don't think the kid was locked up until after, so he may have stopped raining rocks, but these events were still going on when the kid was there. So maybe this kid was the window. Because after the UFO sightings in September, another weird phenomenon started happening. This was at the end of September and going into early October. There were animal mutilations that began occurring.
Whoa.
The first case was a sheep farmer in the area. He went to the pasture the previous night, went to sleep, woke up the next morning, went back to the pasture. All 22 of his sheep were dead.
All of them?
And all 22. And they were scattered across 10 acres of land. So they weren't together. They were spread out over 10 acres. And he called in animal control. And after they investigated, he was told that they were killed by wild dogs. Now, that might sound plausible at first, but the farmer disagreed. And the reason he disagreed is because sheep, when they're in danger, will bunch together in a group. And they do that as a defensive mechanism. In addition to that, well, for starters, if they're grouping together when being attacked, they're not going to be spread out over 10 acres. But in addition to that, there were no bite marks on the sheep. Not one of them had any bite marks.
That's silly. Then that completely eliminates dogs, the dickheads.
But they try to, even still with cattle mutilations, they say that it was predation. You know, despite the surgically removed reproductive organs and the fact that there's no blood present and, you know, eyeballs are missing or, you know, whatever's missing, all done surgically, no tears, none of that shit. And the fact that insects and scavengers avoid the carcasses.
Yeah, that's a weird detail that was in your notes as well. Why do scavengers avoid these mutilated corpses? That's strange. Or is it?
I don't know. But that's how it is with cattle mutilations as well.
Radiation levels or something.
So I don't know. Yeah. But a week after this farmer, there was another farmer a mile away from the first farmer who had 11 sheep that were found mutilated as well. And so both of these cases, you had sheep killed in mysterious ways. They said that the sheep had slits in their throats and soft parts of their stomach were missing, but there was no blood. And the parts of their stomach that were missing were not torn out. They were removed, and the cuts that they had on them were smooth and appeared to be surgical.
Wow.
So just like cattle mutilations, except these are sheep. But in the weeks that followed, there were other types of animals that were found dead and mutilated. And this is a weird part because a lot of these you don't hear about being animal mutilations. But there were dogs and cats. You occasionally hear about those. But then rabbits were found. Then geese, ducks, and swans were also found to be mutilated in similar fashion.
That's weird.
Yeah. But it only happened through October. And then after that, the mutilations stopped. The UFOs stopped. Everything stopped. And nothing continued again beyond that point.
So it's just like normal. As quick as they came, they disappeared.
Yeah, it's like they had a chance to get through and something happened and they weren't able to stay. It was just a short stay and they caused a little bit of chaos and then went back.
Yeah, it almost seems like they were on a breakthrough mission and it didn't work. So they're like, okay, resume normal testing. Just do the normal shit we can do.
Yeah. But then they just disappeared after that. You know, they were cruising around and there weren't any people that were reporting being abducted or anything during this time. No one had missing time. No one reported seeing aliens except for this kid. It's just the UFOs and then these weird mutilations.
Just as there weren't too many people, well, just as there weren't any people reporting ghosts in their homes and stuff like this. So it's almost, I after all this information, it totally leans more towards a UFO thing than a paranormal thing for me.
But I think that it's not one or the other. I think it's both. You know, I think it's all tied together.
Two separate things going on at the same place, huh?
No, I think it's all related, but I don't think that the UFOs are the culprit. I think the UFOs are part of what's going on. You know, to me, it seems like all right, so let's take that first UFO sighting, for instance, where the guy said he saw the bright light and then it came up and it was a disc-shaped light. And then out from there, he saw these flares. Then he saw these little balls come out. What if that light that he saw was kind of like the light itself was the portal, and the portal is able to move. So they're able to move the portal, and then these sparks fly out. So those would be like the probes, and then they send the balls out to check this stuff out. And then the balls go back in, and then the portal closes, and they have that information.
That's what I was thinking. Some type of portal generation. Maybe the dude on the bridge and then those balls flying around from underneath and over the bridge. Maybe that looked like a good landing strip for them. Maybe where they're trying to establish that as like a portal area.
Yeah, and then they see a dude there, and they check that out, and they're like, oh, there's a life form here, and they, for whatever reason, didn't want to make contact and peaced out.
Wow.
Like, see ya.
Very bizarre story, man.
Yeah, it's a very weird event, and it's just another example of weirdness in Connecticut. Not that I think Connecticut's a weird place, but it's just, it's, because you can look at New York for weird shit. I mean, I did a whole episode on haunted places, and I didn't even touch stuff that was downstate. There's tons of shit downstate, New York City and in the surrounding area down there. Mm-hmm. I just mostly touched on places that I had been and that were in my area. But I mean, there's tons of UFO sightings. Like, we did this show on the Hudson Valley UFO.
Yeah.
And that's one of the craziest cases out there, as far as UFOs go. This lasted for like a month. And people were getting beamed, like UFOs were beaming people. People were reporting missing time. People were getting abducted. There were constant UFOs being sighted. All sorts of wacky shit.
I almost wish there was a couple ghost sightings or something more spiritually paranormal to it. I mean, like I said, I think they were starting to implement some type of mind control on that little kid.
Or just trying to trick him. I mean, that's kind of the thing that they do. They try to trick people. They're tricksters.
Those alien bastards.
Thank you for listening to the Whatcast. You can find us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, iTunes, and YouTube. Enjoy the podcast. Get yourself a Whatcast t-shirt or a sticker pack. Who was that dude on that one episode? Try the links in Homie's page. All this and more can be found at www.thewhatcasters.com. Thanks again for listening and have a great week.